I think that seeking meaning is truly the hardest part of it all. It's the task that most people are trying to avoid because it's too scary. Instead, people lose themselves in the chase of money or status. But I think there is something much deeper beneath the surface that needs to see the light. And it took me 20 years to realize that most people are just wandering in their own lives. To me, this is the ultimate nightmare, never knowing what you're here for. And while everyone else seems to be talking about being productive and how to make money, no one seems to be discussing the reason why we're here. Well, here are the 4 steps that I found on my way to seeking meaning above everything else. So there was a time when I truly needed someone to tell me that discovering who I am should come above everything else. I was too caught up into people's perceptions and expectations of me. A few years back, I stumbled upon a video that really struck with me. The message was something along, what's the alternative to not giving your best shot? And at the time, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I was still at school, working part-time a student job. And I thought to myself, what about passion and things that are supposed to matter? Because it felt like we've stopped talking about this a long time ago. Because from what I've seen, people want you to think that money and status are going to bring meaning to your life. Yet I already feel like I don't like it doesn't attract me at all. And when you're stuck in this kind of situation, what are you supposed to do? And I believe that we need to bring back passion into the process. So I conceive passion as the result of a deep attraction to a skill combined with extensive experience in that skill. We all have like potential for passion. Only a minority of us will actually transform their interest into actual passions because it needs discipline and consistency, something that most people lack. Passion doesn't fall from the sky, and in order to discover what could interest you, we need to go back to the roots. The past is a great place to start because your brain has archived every significant detail you might need in order to think about this. Reflect on the activities that captivated the younger you, the ones that made you lose track of time. Because the story is yours, and even if the specific activities have changed, the underlying skills have remained persistent. Nothing is more significant than the data that you have about your own life because no one else has access to it. What comes next is simple. You make a list. You make a list of all of the potential skills that you thought about while looking at your past. Not only that, you add a second column for the things that you've always wanted to try but never made the time for. Think big while being realistic. I know that life will get in your way, that's for sure. And to be honest, you have to look at the list in front of you and put aside the ones that aren't possible or realistic at the moment. Life is short and you can only do so much. If you're working full time or still going to school, then you only have a few hours in your day that you can use in order to do that. And that's even taking for granted that you already have the discipline to focus on the thing. And honestly, this may be the hardest part for like pretty much everyone. For me, this was very anxiety provoking, being in front of a list, and it really triggered me in a way because I need to act on a lot of things and didn't have much time. And that's when I learned the scarcity of time. And even if I was anxious, it taught me that I can waste any of the time that I have left. Once you have your list, you bring them in order. The ones that are on top are going to be the ones you try first. Think about this as the trial and error phase. The crucial thing is that you only limit yourself to test out one interest at a time. But we'll get into practical details later. You don't want to be overwhelmed and try to implement too much thing at once, or everything will pretty much collapse. And I'm talking from experience here. You need to prepare yourself though, because depending on the order that your life is in right now, making space to practice a new skill will force you to develop self discipline. And this is probably going to create friction, which is going to be a negative feeling that you have telling you that you should procrastinate instead of engaging into the thing. And that's completely normal. In my case, the first thing on my list was going to the gym. As a 17-year-old, 6'1", weighed about 140 pounds. So that was top of my list. Now, here's the part where I feel like most self improvement is. And I guess by now everyone's familiar with Atomic Habits by James Clear. We're going to transform the skill that you have on your lists and turn it into an actionable daily habit. And it has to be every day. Otherwise, chances are you won't stick to it. Your brain has to understand that this isn't a choice and that you'll be doing this over and over every day. And from what I've tried, I think that starting with at least 10 to 15 minutes per day is the best range for most general skills like reading, writing, exercising, that kind of stuff. You will have to start little. Otherwise, it just won't work because you're going to overwhelm yourself. And in my case, I started going to the gym every day. Not for 2 hours, not doing crazy workouts. To be honest, I was more learning while looking at what other people were doing, really. But the practice of simply walking to the gym and staying at least 15 to 20 minutes, even if I was doing like the wrong thing, it was reinforcing the idea that I can become a fit person if I stick to it for an extended period of time. So if I do this long enough, my brain will have to adapt and change in order to be adequate to the situation that I'm in. Simply put, your identity will need to change if you stick to it long enough. The problem is that it's really the last thing that your brain wants to do. Shifting your identity is very hard. You're truly battling against your own perception of yourself. And this is the major issue for most people. They just can't see themselves becoming what they want to be. But at the end of the day, you can't really lie to yourself. And if you just engage in the behavior as you said you would, you'll slowly start to build something. After the first couple of days, even if you're bad at it, it will get eventually easier every time that you try. And the second most important thing is that the level of focus that you have while practicing the skill. The more focused you are, the more your brain has to take it seriously and has to adapt to it. You'll realize that you're doing the right thing as you find yourself fully immersed into the thing. Over time, you'll be able to lose track of time because you're absorbed by the activity. And that's a very good hint that you're doing the right thing. Also, when the habit truly becomes part of your life, you'll notice that your day doesn't feel complete without it. For me, a day without working out now feels impossible, a sign that the habit is anchored into my daily routine. And once you engage in your daily habit for at least 20 minutes per day while being totally focused, then is the time to be smart about it. Because let's take the 100-hour rule. 18 minutes a day is all it takes to be better than 95% of the world in any discipline. And once you're past that 20-minute range for an extended period of time, I'd say at least 6 months to a year, you can consider yourself as more specialized in that skill that most people are. And that's just statistics, that's data. I've been working out for about an hour, 6 days a week for over 4 years, and I have more than 1,000 hours in the gym. And I consider myself specialized, and that's why I train people right now. Once you're specialized, you can choose the game plan. Some people will like to keep it for themselves, and that's okay, as it's a personal passion, something that they do on their own to bring meaning to their life. I don't know, gardening, for example. But here's the second part where self improvement is useful as it teaches you how to leverage your specialization in order to make money. Earning from your passion is smart because it allows you to even invest more time into what you're practicing. And as you improve, the benefits they will compound over time. But to make money, honestly, you don't need me. You have the whole internet to do so. So after I graduated from university, I started to consume a lot of self improvement. At the time, I felt empty and didn't know which route to take. The problem is that I think I've been exposed to the more evil side of self improvement, which is the chase of materialistic things and the status. You have to be careful though, because there's a paradox here. I believe that it's something along those lines. Self improvement is useful in small amounts as it serves a learning purpose. But if you increase the quantity too fast, the quantity of the content that you're watching, the tendency will shift and it will become detrimental. as you'll be aware too soon of all the things that you need to work on in order to become a better person. This can result in a mix between feeling overwhelmed and negatively socially comparing yourself. That being said, I think that self-improvement is overall a gold mine. And just like everything, it needs to be balanced and nuanced. Ask yourself what you want your life to look like, what skills you want to have, and in which domains you want to be specialized in. Those skills that you will nurture, those are your passions. Remember, all it takes is interest into something and time spent working on it. Passion is the best tool that you have in order to make your time down here as meaningful as possible. And I truly hope this helps. You'll find me here if you need it, and in the meantime, trust the process.